this is Shades here. Welcome again to Shades' Soapbox. So like many of you, I've seen a very dangerous trend online recently, and as someone who has a voice online, I feel I need to call it out. And that's the idea of cancel culture. The idea that if someone does or says something that you feel is wrong, they should be shamed out of whatever field of work they're in. I'm sorry, but I cannot and will not agree with the idea of cancel culture. But I want to at least make it clear that I understand the reasons why people support the idea before I point out the fallacy of it. Recently, I got into an argument with some people on Twitter who were fully on board with cancel culture, but after trying to make my case with them, it became clear they would not listen to what I had to say. So instead, I want to reach out to those people who might be willing to actually listen to what I have to say. See, many in favor of cancel culture see it as the last hope for justice, as they feel the court of law is biased and in favor of, as they put it, cis white men like me who abuse their power. Now, I want to make this clear. I acknowledge this is a thing. We've seen all too often how cis white men have gotten away with unspeakable acts with barely a slap on the wrist. The biggest example being rapist Brock Turner. So I truly understand how many would feel the court has failed them and would turn to social justice as the only way to seek the solution they feel it should be. I can also understand how they see results with social justice and cancel culture and see that it appears effective to them. So why wouldn't they support it? It can seem very appealing to people when they see that being loud and en masse can force people to face consequences for their actions. So please understand when I say, I do see your point of view on this. That being said, there is a reason I cannot support this mentality and will never consider myself a social justice warrior or SJW. There is an inherent danger in this mentality that I feel will end up making this far worse than any problems in our court system, and many of those dangers have already occurred. Allow me to explain. First off, there's the problem of what does canceling someone actually solve? People don't see this as something they should learn from, but merely a fear that they can't make any mistakes. This kind of mentality promotes the idea that it's one strike and you're out. One wrong statement or one accidental action and your life is ruined. And this has happened. When Kevin Hart was supposed to host this year's Emmy Awards, people pointed out a tweet from many years ago where he said some rather offensive comments. He had immediately taken responsibility after the first tweets, had apologized several times since then, and had shown that he had not done anything that bad since that tweet, but regardless, he was kicked from the position. This wasn't because of something recent, but something he said when he was much younger and a lot less wiser, but he was still punished for it. This is what cancel culture does. It makes us fearful of anything we say or do online for fear of later retribution. We're not allowed to make mistakes anymore. But that was a case of someone who did say something, but just from a long time ago. The bigger issue is when someone is falsely accused. What happens when someone is accused of something, but never actually did anything to begin with? How is anyone supposed to be able to live when at any moment they could be accused of something, and with the masses coming down on them, they have no chance to prove themselves, even when they can prove beyond any reasonable doubt they did not do what they were accused of? This is the Salem witch trials all over again, and that is terrifying. Think that can't happen? It already has, and with fatal results. Alec Holowka was the developer of the indie game Night in the Woods, but back in August, he was accused of abusing fellow game developer Zoe Quinn. Now, while his own family does admit that he wasn't in the best of mental health, evidence soon surfaced that things weren't as bad as Zoe Quinn made it appear to be, and that she could not have been anywhere near Holowka or could have been in contact with him at the times these incidents were said to have occurred. But before that info could surface, the backlash against Holowka was so overwhelming for a man who was already in bad mental shape that he ended up committing suicide. Cancel culture has gone so far as to kill a man. That, to me, is an indication that we cannot be so quick to jump on these bandwagons. And while these are more extreme cases, these are far from isolated incidents. I've been a regular guest on Mildred the Monk's Monastery Live, and I've seen numerous instances where things like this have occurred. It has proven to me that cancel culture is a dangerous thing and needs to be stopped. And I'm not alone on this sentiment. Even former President Barack Obama said as such during a recent event.
If all you're doing is casting stones, you're probably not going to get that far.
And when even Obama is saying it's a bad idea, how do you argue? This leads us back to the argument that I had on Twitter. So what are victims supposed to do? Just not speak up? Of course not. If you are a victim of sexual assault or abuse or harassment or whatever, you should absolutely speak up as soon as you possibly can. I don't want you to feel you cannot seek justice when something has happened to you. But social justice like this is not the answer. It's only trading in one problem for an even worse one. The courts need to be overhauled. There is no question about it. It needs to be made clear that if you commit a crime, you should be punished accordingly. And right now, that is not happening as often as it should. Even when a white man is found guilty, some judges will go out of their way to give them a light sentence, and that is not helping anyone. But to jump to social justice and cancel culture as the answer is equally wrong and will hurt not only innocent people, but inevitably the very people it's supposed to protect. Sooner or later, those who support cancel culture will eventually turn on their own when one of them slips up. So no, I will not support social justice or cancel culture. I will seek true justice in the courts. It's not perfect and it needs to be fixed, but at the end of the day, it's still the best system for making sure the guilty get punished while the innocent are not. And if you still disagree, okay, I can't change your mind. But do me a favor, come back to me when you're the next target of these SJWs. Tell me how that feels then. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me here today, folks. I'm the Shades, and we'll see you next time. Rock on!